What's up, guys?
Howdy, brothers.
Welcome back to another motherfucking episode of Whiskey and Water podcast.
Formal.
Very formal.
I'm your co-host, Jess.
And I am your co-host, Liv. And here we are. We are in season 8.
Who are we?
Guys, we have such a... Oh my God, this is such a good episode.
Goosebump episode.
Like, I just like... You know when you're talking to someone and you just feel like... They're speaking into your soul. You're so aligned. And like we were saying, even when we stopped interviewing her name is Minaa. We'll introduce her officially. But we were just saying, like, after we stopped recording with her, that every single thing she said was on point. Like there wasn't, you know, sometimes like you agree with most stuff and then there's some stuff you're like, no, literally every single thing that came out of this woman's mouth, we were like, yes.
Tell me more.
And it just resonated so hard. Okay, her name is Minaa B. She is a licensed therapist.
She's a writer, a wellness coach, and a licensed therapist, and all-around angel.
Yeah, just total angel vibes from her. And we really talk about like toxic workplace environments, knowing when to leave, setting work boundaries,
burnout, people pleasing.
Yeah.
Even therapy and just getting into that.
We talk about, you know, healing your inner child. And this is basically like, I feel like we had a therapy session.
100%.
And you guys.
I had a therapy
session.
You
guys listening 100%, you're going to feel like this is a free therapy session and it's just invaluable.
It's so good.
I mean, we could dissect every single thing she said and really sit with it and feel like we are like healing.
I'll be listening to I never listen to episodes again, and I will be listening to this episode.
Yeah, no, so good. So yeah, definitely stick around. Amazing, incredible episode ahead for you guys. Make sure to take a screenshot. Let us know you're listening. Well, guys, we're in season 8. Like if you are loyal, if you've been around, make sure that you have given us a ratings and review on iTunes. And also make sure to check out our Patreon, which is officially live.
Yes.
We just have like fun stuff on there.
We do.
It's just fun. Like it just is. It's a good vibe. I like the energy.
Okay, good. You like the energy we've created in the studio today.
Yes.
I loved that little teaser that Daniel did.
Yeah,
that was
good.
So cute.
I think Kennedy did that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Daniel did that.
No, Kennedy did that.
I think Daniel did it.
I'm almost positive Kennedy did.
Well, whichever one of you guys are both listening right now.
Yeah, no.
Great work.
It's super cute. I love, like, if you guys have any ideas for it, we're always open to that too. But I think we're just getting more personal. We're talking about personal life, like love updates, wedding updates. Okay. Anyways, besides all of that, we do want to address the fact that we're not currently talking about how much we love Celsius because we have lost our beloved... Oh, wait, God, that sounds like she passed.
Oh, God. Okay. Unless and it's funny because I talked to her the other day.
She left the workplace.
Yes, she left Celsius, unfortunately.
And she was our main point of contact there.
Yes, and it's so funny because I saw she I like follow her on her personal, and I saw that she like posted, she was like, last day, loved it here, and I was like, oh my God, like
we're sad.
Bye. And she was like, she said, I hope I still get shout outs on the pod. So this is our shout out.
But yeah, so as of now, we are in between seeing if we're gonna renew or not. But either way, we are diehard Celsius.
So
guys, you guys already know.
Send them a DM.
Yes.
Tell them to renew with
Let them know how much you guys love Celsius because of us, and hopefully we renew our deal with them.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to address that because every episode we're like preaching
it's like
Celsius.
part of our brand now.
Yeah.
Like I was joking and I was like, this podcast should just be named Celsius and Water, essentially, at this point.
Why are we still doing an ad for them?
This is free work right now.
I'm cutting ourselves off. Anyways, let's get into catching up a little bit. What's happened the past few weeks before getting into our episode. So what's new, brother?
I am currently turning into Spider-Woman.
Yes.
Because I suffered a bite. I don't know.
So dramatic.
Oh my God. It's not dramatic. I could have Lyme disease right now.
What? Spiders don't carry Lyme.
I don't know if it's a spider. It could be a tick.
No, it's not a tick. You would know if it was a tick. You would see it. And ticks are the only things that carry Lyme disease.
But it could be a tick bite.
It would still ticks like
latch on, no?
Yeah. Ticks like go under your skin. So you would so you would see it.
I know that, but I also people are like, I know that there's not a tick, but could it be a tick bite?
And then they like did their own thing. I don't think ticks bite without putting themselves in their skin. Anyways, we'll keep you guys posted if Jess turns
Someone
into
said a roach bite.
Spider Woman. No, roaches don't bite.
No, this girl said that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Ew.
I know.
No.
I was like, roach, excuse the fuck out of me. What did you just say?
You know people are allergic to cockroaches? Anyways, I don't know how
that
you would
find that is the weaker species.
No, when you go to do your like allergen test to see everything you're allergic to, it'll say like cockroaches.
That is natural selection.
I digress. What's new in your life other than your spider bite and turning into Spider Woman?
Well, I got the spider bite in North Carolina. As you guys know, I was going there for a wedding. What do you? Are you good?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I was there for a wedding, and it was fun. I was there for my best friend from high school. She had her wedding, and it was super cute, little whimsical woodland vibe.
Yeah, and you were out in the mountains.
Yes, I was actually terrified.
Why?
Because have you seen those TikToks about like the people in the Appalachians?
Is that where?
Yes,
is that
I was in the Appalachian Mountains.
No. They're like, don't look in the bushes.
Yes, they're like, don't look in the trees.
If
they say your name, don't respond. I'm like,
yeah,
what?
and apparently there's like tribes who live in there, or just like serial killers who live in the bushes and like stalk and hunt like trail goers.
Yes, I know. I could not sleep.
I have chills.
I could not sleep.
That's really scary. Oh my god! Oh my god! I didn't know that's where you were, girl.
I didn't know that's where I was either. I got there and I was like, I was telling them about it, and I was like, yeah, but these aren't the Appalachians, and they were like, yes, it is.
No,
I swear to God, I had no idea I was in the Appalachian Mountains.
Wow,
I was like, these are the Rockies.
Oh my god, I can't. Florida problems. Anywho, anything else? It was cute. I liked it.
Do I have anything
You went
else?
in like the mountains, and it's funny that we both went to like the mountains the same month.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Outdoors.
Outdoor. You know, just calls us. Okay.
Do I have any other?
Wait, hold on. We should make that merch. Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, other than, trying to survive with just gone.
Yeah. It was a rough week for you. Rough week. It was, honestly, just give you a little pat on the back here.
Thank you. I won't lie, but I was like, you know what? She would do it for me. And I was like, got to see it through. It was rough. It was probably the most shoots we had to schedule within this short amount of time, and the most models that we had to schedule. But honestly, that has been a new learning curve for us, which is like scheduling models. It's just really hard.
Can we automate that? Like,
should
we do like a calendar?
We should talk about it.
Where they can like
pick
their availability.
We should definitely talk about it. But me and Caroline really went through the trenches together and came out alive. So it was good, and we're in a good place with mood. Things are happening. We got a lot more clients, honestly, than we not can handle, but we're dealing with a lot of clients, which is a good problem to have. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of really figuring out the best systems to be the most efficient and to not have burnout.
Yeah, or have things like slipping through the cracks or whatnot.
Yeah, so it's a process, but we are getting through it, and we're going to keep you guys updated along for our journey. Other than that, I have officially kind of set a wedding month, not necessarily a date. I am thinking October 2023.
That's exciting.
It is very exciting for me, and people are like, why are you waiting so long? And one, I know a lot of people need to catch up on weddings from the past year, so I'm not trying to compete with anyone. Two, my mental bandwidth can handle thinking about it in 23, not 22 or 21.
22 is so quick.
Yeah, it's quick, and that means I would have to start planning now, and I don't want to start planning now. There's no.
And 2023 hopefully will be a little bit more financially
abundant.
Yes.
And also I feel like it gives my guests time to prepare, whether it's taking off from work, that's plenty of notice.
Yeah.
They might have a different job at that point. Who knows? And then two, it gives everyone enough time to save too, because we are pretty set on wanting to do a destination wedding. It's not confirmed because we're still looking into pricing, which is really fucking expensive. I don't know.
Crazy.
This is the downside to being the first one out of your group of friends to get married is no one's done this before. No one knows how it works. No one knows how much money to spend.
Even this past wedding that I went to, she kept it pretty conservative, and it was still extremely expensive.
She kept it bare minimum, and it was still expensive.
Expensive as fuck.
Guys, you cannot.
And we were setting everything up ourselves.
No help.
It was hard. Honestly. I was I had no idea it was like this.
Yeah, so I had a call with a wedding planner, and I feel like a reason I've been putting it off is because I knew this was going to be the reality of like what I want to do is going to be so fucking expensive. So we'll see.
But you don't want to do it. You're not going to do it like that.
Literally, if it's not what I have in mind, I just don't know if I want to do anything at all. I don't know.
Honestly, let's just full send to another country.
It would probably be cheaper. It would be cheaper.
100%.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. But I do have a date, which makes me feel good.
She's actually going to have it on my birthday. The wedding is on my birthday.
Definitely not. But yeah, and that date came around because I was thinking about the year 23, and then I was thinking like sometime in the winter where it's like not as hot so that people can be comfortable. And then the way it came about to be October was just so weird because I was like trying to think like what's, you know, a little bit before November. I don't want to do too close to my birthday. And then my sister was like, do October because then you can do 10/23. And I was like, holy shit. And that number has just always like been weird for me and very like spiritual. Confirmation and spiritual. So I'm like, that would make a lot of sense if my wedding ended up being 10/23. So that is the update on that. We'll keep you guys posted on the journey.
Love that. In pain.
I'm in pain.
Spain without the S.
Yeah, literally. And my friends are like, oh my God, I'm so excited. It's going to be a banger no matter what. And I'm like, I'm not even excited yet. Like I am, but I need to get through.
I'm so fucking stoked.
I need to get through the like bulk of the planning before I can like actually get excited.
If I don't have a boyfriend by that time, I'm going to be so fucking mad.
We already have a groomsman for you.
Oh, no.
All right, moving on. We're going to get into the episode, but I wanted to share a quick little pro tip that I shared with Jess before we started recording. And of course, we're always filling you guys in on little pro tips that we have. And I don't know like what even sparked this because I really didn't read it anywhere or like see anything. I was just like, you
just be like that.
Let me just do it and see if it works. So what I've been doing lately, if I feel like I have a task like hanging above my head, whether mostly it has to do with house chores.
Cleaning.
If it's cleaning, if it's doing my laundry, if it's whatever, doing the dishes, and I can feel myself like procrastinating it, I will set a timer for an hour on my oven and I'll just let it run. And for some reason, knowing that I'm tracking my time makes me more productive. It just makes me stick to it. It makes me not get distracted.
I think it puts a fire under your ass too.
Yeah, you know? I don't know. And it's not like you're trying to like say, oh, I'm going to get my laundry done in an hour or I'm going to get this, and this done in the hour. But it's like just tracking it helps you stay on track.
Yeah.
100%. I don't know. And then like I told Jess, I've been trying to do it even when I'm sitting at my computer. I'll set a timer for 30 minutes. And then knowing that it's being timed, it makes me more intentional about my time. I think that's what it is.
Love that.
So that is a little pro tip for you guys. If you are, bad with house chores like we are or bad at procrastinating things, try setting a timer for an hour and see if that helps. Let us know if it does.
Wonderful. Well, let's not hold you guys any longer. Let's get into the episode.
Let's get into it. See you on the other side.
All right, guys, we have told you about nutrition realm, we have told you about fitness realm, and we have told you about women's realm. So naturally, we had to do it to you, and we're going to be talking to you about pet realm.
Because we love our pets, naturally. As pet lovers, we know how difficult it can be to sit through all the information available about pet wellness, training, and products. Pet Realm's mission is to help you give your pets the absolute best by providing you with clear, factual information about all things pets.
From CBD to the best toys and tips and tricks, Pet Realm will provide you with a one-stop shop to keep you and your pets healthy and happy. Check out petrealm.co and follow them at GoPetRealm on Instagram.
Yes, and we will have the link in our description for you as well.
All right, go check it out, guys. All right, guys, we are live with Minaa B. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. As we mentioned before the Zoom, you are absolutely glowing.
Like shining, literally radiating. I need to know your skincare routine ASAP.
The tips we need. But thank you so much for, hopping on this with us. We so appreciate it. For our audience who isn't familiar with you, please just give them a little bit of a rundown of who you are and what you do.
Yes, well, thank you. So my name is Minaa B, as you mentioned, and I'm a writer, wellness coach, and a licensed therapist based in New York City.
Wonderful. And tell us a little bit about your journey. And did you go to school? I mean, I know that you're a licensed therapist, but I would love to know kind of what led you down that path.
Yeah, so pretty much my own experiences with mental health as a child and a teenager is what started to inform my interest in the mental health field. And that mainly was because around that time I was struggling with depression and I didn't really have the proper terminology at that age to know what depression was. But I understood the symptoms. I knew what I was feeling was something that my friends did not understand. And that made me feel different. And it made me a little curious to know why am I feeling what I'm feeling and other people can't relate to the things that I'm going through. The sadness I feel, the different things I was going through. No one else really understood it. And so that really just gauged my interest in wanting to have a full understanding of the therapy world. However, I was still young, so I had other interests as well. So I was also really hell bent on getting into the fashion industry, and I wanted to be a fashion merchandiser. So I studied undergrad in college and I studied business management to focus more on fashion, the business side of fashion when I got out. But then when I was in undergrad, I took a lot of electives in Psych 101, sociology, and I had a sociologist professor who was actually a social worker. And I loved her class. I loved everything about it. And she pretty much was the person who pushed me to become a social worker. So instead of getting my MBA, I got my MSW, and which is my master's in social work. I went to NYU. And upon graduating, I was
She educated.
I started right into the field, and that was about close to 10 years ago.
Wow.
That's incredible. My mom was also a social worker, so I know
Cool.
how powerful that is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so great. And I love that you let your childhood experiences kind of influence your adult experience. And, that obviously planted a seed in you and it made you want to like look into it further understand it. I'm sure taking those elective classes also did help you like kind of re-peak your interest into it. So that's awesome. And
Yeah, that's basically what happened. Like, it
yeah,
really was something that helped inform my decision while being in the business section. And it's also great because now I am self-employed, and so some of those business skills are being applied. So when you think about life in many ways, we're functioning as a business in some sort of way. So having
yeah.
that knowledge still informs my work in many ways.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's awesome. And I also love that you started in social work because a lot of times, like you mentioned, when a lot of underprivileged children, when they're feeling these feelings and going through this, they don't have the resources available to them. And it's amazing that people like you and like all social workers take the time and the energy to really invest in these children and give them the resources and the help that they actually need.
Yeah, absolutely, which is why I love the field of social
Yeah.
work
It's
compared to many
so,
other mental health professions.
yeah, it's so important and it's so valuable.
And unfortunately, very underpaid.
Yeah.
I mean, these fields are so important, yet they are so underfunded, and it's horrible. That's a conversation for
Yeah.
another time, unfortunately.
It's a whole other episode.
But I did just want to voice my appreciation for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So what kind of led you into the space that you're in now?
Mhm.
Especially on just social media.
Yeah.
You have a very strong social media presence, and I would love to know how that even happened because obviously
That evolution.
yeah, it's not easy to just build a platform, and especially when you're not like a model or influencer or anything like that, but you're a therapist, but you're sharing so much value through your social media channels. So definitely want to know what that whole journey looked like for you and building your platform in that way.
Yeah, of course. So I always knew from the very beginning that I wanted to take a very non-traditional approach with many fields, whether it be social work or pursuing any other degree. I think the business side of things, or not even business is probably the right term, but when we think about career trajectories, we're taught go to school, just get a job, stick it out until you retire. I always knew from day one that was not going to work for me. So I knew in order to break out of that structured environment and to be paid my worth, as you mentioned, it's a very undervalued and underpaid field and industry. I knew I was going to have to do things very different. And so for me, because I always had this vision of being an entrepreneur, I knew that I was going to have to rely on resources outside of my 9 to 5 to help me, I guess build my brand.
Sure.
And when I saw social media being a place where so many people were starting to pivot from using photos and showing their brunch and, like you said, modeling and all these things, you just started seeing words. And it's like, oh, there's a space on here for people to just share words and
Yeah.
information. And what would it look like if I shared educational information around mental health, right? Now people are getting used to seeing this type of content on this platform, where when it first started, that wasn't a thing. It was like, post your selfie, post your donut, post, post your makeup routine and different things like that.
Right.
And so when I saw that there was really a space to educate and inform, I knew there was an audience. I knew there were people who wanted that information. And I think most importantly, I knew there was a large group of people who needed this information because they couldn't get it on their own due to how inaccessible therapy is, whether it's regarding your region, whether it's regarding your location, whether it's regarding finances. For so many reasons, there are a lot of barriers to getting one-to-one professional help. And so if I could share that with people, why not? So I pretty much just started sharing, and I didn't know where it was going to go. To be honest, where I am now, I hoped for it, but I didn't think it would become this, because I knew I just wanted to share and I wanted to grow a community. And I'm so grateful for how it happened very organically, and that I've been able to make such nurturing connections with people in this space to continue to stay focused on the thing that I'm passionate about. I never had to segue into something else to bring light to this conversation. I've been able to maintain that authenticity around the subject, which is, let's talk about mental health. And that's why I'm here. And this is the space I want to take up. So that's pretty much like what drove me to really utilize resources like blogs and my Instagram and podcasts and my own website to try to build a non-traditional approach into getting the industry more recognized and well known.
Oh my God, so good. You are just, wow. You're so inspiring. And I just love everything you said, because you can just tell how genuine it is. And it's not forced and it's not copy and paste. The thing is, I think a lot of coaches and people, self-help professionals on Instagram can either they come off, or they are very like, they might have learned how to sell their services in a course and then they're applying. So it feels very like copy and paste. And what I love about your story is that it is so authentic to who you are at your core, and so aligned with your true values, and it shows and it's working, because even like on our call before we started recording, what I had said was like, a lot of the content on your page is like original content. It's not stuff that we've seen before. It's not, list of things or affirmations that we've seen before. It's like, it looks all brand new, and it's because it's original and it's from you. It helps, of course, that you're a writer, but no, it's so beautiful. And I absolutely love what you're doing. And there's so much power in sharing just words on social media, like you said. And I think there's a lot of value in just people feeling validated. So even if it's not a full therapy session or a coaching session, going to your page and seeing a graphic that can validate what someone has been feeling but can't put into words is really, really powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I think that on social media, a lot of people can be really like burnt out from seeing, all these photos of like photoshopped people and, just like content that isn't really inspiring. And so I don't know, personally, anytime that I'm scrolling and I, see an inspiring quote, I always take that extra second to read it and really kind of try to have it resonate with me, and rather than just continuing to scroll, because those little moments are so powerful and can really change the course of someone's day.
Yeah. And it's a breath of fresh air especially on a feed, like Instagram, where, like she said, you are seeing things that maybe aren't like making you feel great. If anything, they might be making you feel bad about yourself and your life and where you are in your life or whatever it is. So like seeing those affirmations or those validations where it's like you're exactly where you're meant to be, or it's okay to feel this way, whatever it is such a nice breath of fresh air.
And that's what I hope for. That's
Yeah.
what I want people to come on my page and see. I don't want them to feel judged, and I don't want them to feel crazy or like
Yeah.
something's wrong with them. It's just like, I really want it to be an experience where we all just recognize we're humans and we go through things, and we also have the ability to overcome our struggles and our traumas. And I'm hoping to provide people with those resources to do so.
I love that. And,
Beautiful.
we always remind our audience to do social media cleanses where they unfollow accounts that aren't inspiring them or just haven't been sitting right with them, and then follow, 10 inspiring accounts. So, guys, if you're listening to this, you need to go follow Minaa immediately.
Yeah, or just taking social media breaks in general. I'm a big advocate for that, is just spending a day off your phone or a few hours off your phone where it's like just completely away from you, not even a temptation. I think that's really healthy as well.
Yeah, I agree with both, especially the cleansing.
Yeah, definitely, because it can be really it depends how you use it. Like, it's such a powerful tool, and like what you put in is what you get out, and your feed could either make you feel like shit or it could make you feel great. Like, and it's totally dependent on the accounts you follow.
Yeah. I mean, and like, I'm sure everyone gets those notifications where it's like, you spent 6 hours a day on your phone last week, or maybe that's just me. But, we spend so much time on these platforms, and, given that it is our job, so I do feel like we maybe spend a little bit more time on it, but that's why it is so important to make sure that that's a place that you have curated as, like somewhere you feel safe.
Yeah.
We spend so much time on it, and it's like, it's as gross as I feel saying it, it's like a second home to us because we spend so much time on it. And so it's like, why wouldn't you make that home comfortable?
Oh, I love that.
Thanks. It really just, I was just receiving that from like the ether. I don't know where that came from.
No, I love that. It's so true, because we spend so much time. Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to move on and kind of ask what your business structure looks like. Are you taking clients on an individual basis? Do you have different programs set up? Like, what does that look like for you and your journey right now?
Yeah. So currently, I am not taking on clients, and that is because I pivoted in a way where I'm now more so focusing on my wellness coaching.
Okay.
And my wellness coaching is actually specific to corporate wellness coaching. So what I do is I work with brands and companies on providing speaking and workshop facilitation for their staff to help with employee burnout and helping manage stress-inducing work environments. And I pivoted just because I mean, from my own personal experience, again, I think lived experiences are so powerful. You would think that as a therapist that I come from healthy work environments, but I don't. I feel like almost every job that I have ever had is almost a very toxic environment, a very stress-inducing environment, and it's a culture that does pretty much induce burnout. And so I had to walk away from that structure, but that's something I wanted to do anyway. I knew I wanted to get into the field of entrepreneurship, but everyone doesn't want that. Everyone doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. There are people who are completely comfortable with working at another job, and that's completely fine. But I also think we all need resources to manage our mental health. I can do that now because I'm self employed and I control everything, and I don't have someone else I have to report to, or different things like that. But what does it look like when you're in an environment, right, where you do have to report to people, and recognizing that these people are flawed, these people struggle with distorted thinking, these people have their own mental health issues, but we still have to show up and be our full selves at work.
Right.
So that is pretty much what I do now, really getting into these brands, working with these brands and these companies to work on, employee wellness. What does that look like? What is the current structure of your work environment? What are the things people are learning? What are the things people are unlearning? And how are you making space for people to feel safe emotionally in these environments?
So good. I feel like you are literally a superhero. Like,
and we worked corporate together before we both went self-employed, and I'm just like, damn, I wish they would have found her because it was such a toxic work environment, and so we can definitely relate to that because I mean, I remember there was a time.
I was just gonna bring it up.
You could tell it.
Yeah, I literally was driving to work and I had a full-on panic attack on the rooftop of the garage, and Jess had to come up and get me out of my car.
Wow.
Like, that's how toxic it was. It was bad. So but I'm grateful. I'm really grateful that we had that experience and that time there working in corporate America. And not to say that every, company is like this, but I think more than not, these are the situations because companies aren't taking the time to think about the wellness of their employees. So I'm thankful that we do have that experience, because now we know that's like not what we want for ourselves at all. But it really shines a light on the reality of what so many people face every day, which is a toxic work environment. And I think there's this change in our generation where we are seeing more people wanting to be entrepreneurs and be their own bosses. And I think that's a direct reflection off of their experience in toxic work environments, in toxic 9-to-5s. Again, that's not for everyone. Some people love their job, and I absolutely love that for everyone who loves what they do and loves their job and loves the people they work with and their managers. But like I said, so many companies aren't set up that way. So I just love that you're like doing that work, because in a way that is like the best thing you can do for a society, is like make the workers happy. Like if you're a happy employee, you're going to be better at your job. You're going to live a better life. Like even as a boss, like even when we're trying to scale, we're thinking about our employees and their happiness. And all we could ever want is want our employees to want to work for us and to be happy and fulfilled and feel like, they're loved and appreciated with us, and that is a direct reflection off of our experiences in the past of not having that, and like being so frustrated and not wanting to ever make someone else feel like that when they're working for us. But that is so good. And I feel like I could recommend you to so many businesses and so many corporations. I don't know why that's just not standard.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've actually never heard of that service. I've heard of, like trainings and stuff like that, but not specifically to handle like burnout and, making employees happy. And honestly, kudos to those companies that are taking that initiative to hire you.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's, on the business side for you, I think it's actually really interesting that you decided to kind of pivot into corporate as well, because corporate has a lot of money. There is just a lot of cash flow there. So I think that's a great decision for you as far as like scaling and kind of making the most out of your time. But yeah, I just think that that's really, really cool.
So good. So I'm kind of curious to know, and I want to get into it, obviously without us being a corporation and hiring you as our wellness coach. I do want to know what that kind of looks like when you go into these brands and these companies and they are struggling with burnout or struggling with their work boundaries. What is kind of the first step that you take in either assessing where they're at or starting to get them moving in the right direction?
She's like, massages for everyone.
Mani-pedis in the office.
I mean, hopefully my goal is to definitely grow. I'm a one-person team right now, but I do want to be able to offer more services. It may not be manis and pedis and things like that, right? But the more, the better,
Definitely.
Serve people. But this work really just looks like, one, depending on who I'm in contact with, there are some companies who actually are starting to form wellness departments. And so, this is like, right, like it's such a huge change happening. And I think this pandemic really shifted a lot of how we're recognizing things are being done and what needs to change. And so it really just depends on who the point of contact is and what their needs are. So I first start off with that assessment, what's happening within the corporation. And my work really is rooted just in trainings and workshops. I try to ensure that all higher level staff are a part of those trainings and workshops, because I think often they send their direct reports to these workshops. And my model is everyone needs to be a part of this, because we're all learning to work together. It's not just a them issue, it's a you issue too. And so it really just starts off with doing an assessment for me to gauge what's happening within the work environment, for then us to now figure out what is the best choice of action moving forward. Do you need consultation? Do you need maybe more so trainings, which will fall under the workshop umbrella, or even doing lectures? Or do you need both, right? Do you need something that requires a little more hands-on and educating? happening. And I determine those factors just based off, the reports around employee burnout, reports around low productivity, reports around surveys that might be coming through the environment where people feel like it's hard for them to get their work done, or they feel unsupported, which is very common in many corporate jobs. I feel like I don't have the support. And then another thing I offer is communities corners, where that is really all about doing mental health related group sessions in relation to things that are happening in the environment. So if there is, like last year, we struggled a lot with so many things, right? Black Lives Matter related to George Floyd, the AAPI violence that was happening against the AAPI community. And so what those community corners look like is literally just a group therapy session. Like, let's have a safe space for your employees to feel like they don't feel comfortable talking to their boss, they don't feel comfortable talking to their supervisor, but let's bring in a mental health clinician who can provide you with some sort of group support, and everyone can feel safe talking to each other. So that's another component that I offer as well. And that component is really the social justice perspective. Portion, right? By understanding what's happening in our environment and how that impacts us. Because again, we're expected to bring our full selves to work, but our full selves experience so many different things that when we get to work, we're forced to compartmentalize and pretend that none of these things are happening in order to push numbers and in order to get projects going and to just keep the company rolling. But we're humans, and I understand that everyone can't get a day off every single time there's something happening in the world. But I do think companies can start working on creating a safe environment where, no, you may not be off today, but let's create a community for you where you feel like you have a space to talk about what's happening.
Oh, so good and so important. I feel like a lot of times, like, you're right, they are expected to not be humans. And like the problems that you're going through in your personal life should be left at the door when you step into the office.
I'm pretty sure like people like that's like in like work books. It'll be like, leave your problems at the door. And it's like
it's like the employee hiring work.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm literally going through a divorce.
No, I think it's really such a change, because when you think of work and you think of business, it's like very like cutthroat in a way, or very like
unemotional,
strict. Yeah, it's like, this is work, like separate your life and your work and leave your personal life at the door. And I don't know, it's hard. I can see, especially if someone were going through something very really traumatic or a hard time in their life, or just struggling with mental health, like showing up to a workplace that isn't supportive of that would just make it so much worse.
Yeah, and if you feel like you're in like not a safe place with your work, where like it's like 3 strikes you're out type of thing, and in like I feel like that's so toxic, and it makes whatever that you're going through that much worse, because then you're worried about what your superiors are thinking. You're worried about your money. You're worried about, like, let's say that you don't have enough support on your team. You're worried about like, leaving your team with more work because you can't show up. I mean, there's just so many reasons why, like, there's so much room for reform in the corporate space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely think that, one of the things I offer the employees is really for them to tap into their sense of agency, because there are going to be things, of course, that your employer cannot do for you. If you're struggling with something in your personal life, it is up to you to try to do the work of healing from that. But I do think we can also create an environment where people can feel safe enough to say, I am going through something in my personal life, so I may need maybe about an extension, right? Can I extend that deadline? What does it look like to show our employees grace? What are there areas where we don't have to necessarily be rigid? How can we be more flexible around what we offer our employees and what we expect from them? And I think it also just creates an opportunity for people to feel like this is a place where I can grow and flourish and be safe here, because there is a network of supportive people.
Mm-hmm. And for someone that doesn't necessarily work in that sort of workspace, like maybe let's say that they are in a toxic workspace, but they do feel, trapped, how do they balance that, like, what would you say that their first step would be when kind of bringing that attention to their manager or something, you know, without feeling like, oh, I'm going to get fired if, you know, XYZ?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I would encourage people to do is really sit with that anxiety and process what that fear and worry is, because that's what
Mm.
anxiety truly is. And what we do is we have our circumstances and we create these future-based scenarios. And honestly, for every worst case scenario, there's always a best case scenario. So it's really important not to lead with the worst ideas possible. It's really important to recognize we don't have control over how people will respond to us when we share things with them. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, do I feel comfortable sharing with my boss what I'm going through, and assessing the importance of sharing that. I think the next step is also at asking yourself, well, what do I need to share? Because I don't need to necessarily share every piece of what I'm dealing with. I don't need to be detailed around what I'm dealing with. What is the message that I need to get across? And what is the thing that I'm also advocating for? That's another thing that I often always tell employees. When you're struggling with something and you want to go to your boss and share this, try to also think about what you're advocating for. So I'm not just coming in and venting and dumping this problem on you. I'm
Mm.
also sharing a solution. So I may be struggling with my mental health. And so therefore, I may need to expand my deadline. And this is what the solution is. This is what the problem, but the solution is the work can still be done. I just need maybe an additional week. Or you might say, I'm struggling with this particular issue. I may take some time off. However, I'm aware of someone who can step in during
Mm-hmm.
my absence. You know, what ways can you be advocating for yourself in that moment? And another thing that I will say when we're talking about toxic environments, it's kind of similar when someone says to me, you know, how can I live with someone who's toxic and abusive? How can I work through that trauma? And you can't work through your trauma while you're continuously living through your trauma.
Mm.
So if you are consistently showing up to an environment that is making it very clear to you that it is unsafe, it is unhealthy, it's toxic, it's going to be very difficult for you to manage healing in an environment that does not support healing. And so this is often the difficult piece for people, but learning to know when it's time to walk away is honestly the most important thing you can do for yourself, because you can have that conversation with your boss, the CEO, whoever you have to report to. But if this is an environment that consistently shows you we're not here for the people, or we can't make accommodations for you, we don't have the structure or the ability to do that for you, you have to come to a choice. Your employer can't make that choice for you. And I know that's often the most difficult thing for people to realize, but sometimes we have to know when to walk away. And it's really important for people to realize that it's going to be very hard to thrive in toxic settings. You're consistently exposing yourself to the stressor over and over and over again, which is the same thing as if my work environment is traumatic. How am I going to do the work of healing if I consistently expose myself to the trauma over and over and over again? You know, so those are the things I really encourage people to think about when they're in super stress inducing environments that are very toxic, that sometimes quitting is your best option.
I love that, and I think that that's so incredible, and I agree wholeheartedly, and I can relate a lot because I feel like my biggest issue is walking away in a lot of situations. Like I will almost like even in our corporate job, I just stopped working until I got fired. Like I was just like because I couldn't walk away. I'm just you know, and even in relationships, I'm a lot like that too, and I feel like what's kind of helped me come to like these realizations is like I need to stop, you know, like enabling the trauma. Like what I'm doing is I'm allowing it to happen. I'm doing myself a disservice and I'm not honoring myself because you know, it's like you know it's wrong, but like you're not stopping and it's like, well why are you doing that? Like let's start honoring ourselves. And I feel like there's so much power in that. Like it's just insane. And so obviously it's easier said than done, but if kind of taking that responsibility and being like, okay, I am now, it's not even about this person entirely as much, like, or the workplace. It's about me and what I'm doing to myself here. And that's always kind of empowered me to make the right decisions.
Yeah. And I love what you said about being your own agency. Like that kind of wraps it up. It's like you're looking out for you at the end of the day, and you will always be that person looking out for you. And there's this great quote, like, you are the best project you'll ever work on, something along the lines of that. So I think that's so great. And I really like what you said about having to just make the decision to walk away. Because a lot of people struggle with, like, obviously there's the security and the money aspect, and obviously people need a livelihood. So I think a big struggle for people could be like, at what point and what, it's survival. It's like, this is how I make my money. So,
and it's like, I can do another day. I can do another week.
Yeah, and people push it off. But what would be your best advice for someone who, that's their livelihood? I mean, obviously it's to have other things lined up, but I'm curious to know what your advice for their mental health maybe is when they're in that struggle of the fork in the road and they don't know which direction to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for us to realize that taking action is always going to be hard. As you said earlier, like, it's easier said than done, and talking is always easy. Doing the actual work is going to be hard. And I think sometimes we make choices that align with our suffering more than it aligns with our growth. And choosing to do the thing that helps us grow is always going to be harder than choosing the thing that allows us to suffer.
Wow.
Because often the thing that allows us to suffer, we've grown comfortable with it. And we've taught ourselves survival techniques to deal with the suffering. So it's like, well, I know that my boss is toxic, so I'll just continue to deal with the toxicity. I know my boss is erratic and screams every time they're angry, and so I'll just deal with the screaming another day.
Right.
And we don't realize the different ways we normalize that dysfunction by continuing to take action that's in alignment with the thing that's hurting us. So I think it's just really important for us to really be rational by assessing, how does this work environment actually help me grow, both physically, emotionally, spiritually, even mentally. And when you start to see that there's no options there is no way it's helping me grow, all it's doing is aiding suffering, then I think that is the part where we have to just be real with ourselves and the circumstance that we're in, and remembering that no one else can make that choice for you. And so the things that you consistently complain about, what are you actually doing to change that circumstance? The next thing I would also say is plan in advance. I'm not saying figure it out today and then quit tomorrow, right? What is plan B? What are the other avenues that you can take? I recommend people assessing their bank account and assessing what their bills look like and assessing financial resources that they might need, because I know getting a job for some people doesn't always happen right away also. So you might just want to assess, how much time can I give myself if I decide to quit cold turkey? How long can I do this until I'm waiting for the next job? Often people are also applying for jobs while they're actively working. So that's something that I would encourage you to do. Start looking for jobs as soon as possible so that you already have something lined up. But I will say that those are some avenues to consider taking. And I would just say too, don't limit yourself by assuming that this is the only job you can work.
Right.
I understand that getting a job can often be difficult. But sometimes stepping out of our comfort zones also means trying something new. So maybe I have to try a different type of style of working. I've been in the same industry my whole life, but maybe there's another industry that I might have to step into, right? And so don't limit yourself or your mindset to this idea that there's no work out there. Because I think that's a common thing for people, where it's like, do you not see how, like, the job environments are? And it's like, yeah, jobs are opening up every single day. But I think a lot of us are picky. A lot of us want to be choosy about the things that we allow ourselves to deal with. And remember, it's not an end all be all. You can switch a career, find something new, let it benefit you as long as it can and then leave. You know, like you have power and you have choice and there are options available to you. I think that's the most important thing, because I think a lot of people think that there are no options. And so they have to keep that one job, but there are jobs out there. So figure out what works best for you, and utilize those different steps to take action.
So great. Yeah. And I think just it's easy for us to sit and think there's nothing else out there. Like, what am I going to find? And that's coming from a scarcity mindset rather than an abundance, which we talk about often is, having a different perspective on it and saying there's so many jobs out there. I have so much potential. There's so many employers who would love to have me. So yeah, I think just encouraging our audience to really like listen to your thoughts and check in with yourself and say, okay, am I operating from a scarcity mindset or am I operating for an abundance mindset?
And I feel like that can go hand in hand with being like growth happens outside the comfort zone. Yeah. Like we're huge believers just like in spirituality and, the universe. And we believe that the universe will open up these opportunities to you if you're making yourself available to them. And I feel like if you're keeping yourself in this, toxic environment, what you're doing is that you are limiting your own potential, because these opportunities aren't going to fall into your lap because you are simply not open to them. And so making yourself available to these opportunities and, just trusting in yourself and trusting in, the universe, I think will be the most rewarding thing you can do.
Yeah, agreed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wanna ask you a little bit about work-life anxiety. So, not everyone is in necessarily a toxic work environment, but that doesn't go to say, that they don't struggle with anxiety between balancing their work life and their personal life and their romantic life. But there was this specific quote on your Instagram, and it was about affirmations. And one of the affirmations was, I can succeed without trying to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And I think this really, really resonates with us, and especially for anyone who is either working a 9-to-5 job or an entrepreneur, a business owner, whatever it is. We definitely have this like hustle culture, and success is very highly valued in, establishing our self-esteem and our self-confidence. But I really, really love that you have this affirmation, because it's true, and it's a theme that I want to start, with our platforms pushing out there more, is like, perfect doesn't equal success, and vice versa. So I would love to just get your insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people focus on a perfectionist mindset, and in many ways, that can be a form of a compensatory action. And what that means is we're trying to compensate for something that's lacking within us. Therefore, we want to be perfect. We want to get the job done. We want to do more. We want to find different ways to succeed. We want to take on more than what we're doing, because there's something else that's missing. And instead of us focusing on what's missing and healing through that and investigating it, what we do is we try to compensate, right? And so we try to fill the abyss or the gap or the hole, instead of recognizing, well, why is the hole there in the first place? And so one of the things I really encourage people to do is figure out, if you are someone who lives with like a perfectionist mindset, what are you trying to really compensate for? And I think it's really about recognizing too the many ways we oppress ourselves by trying to be perfect. Because perfection actually does stifle us. It does the actual opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. Right. So we're trying to succeed, but we're putting all this pressure on ourselves. And the more pressure we put on ourselves, the more that impacts our mental health. And when our mental health is impacted, it just creates this ripple effect, like you're just declining more and more and more. And so it's really all about just figuring out what that gap is, what that hole is, and doing the work of sitting with it. I think also sometimes we're raised to have this belief around what success is. And I think some of us are acting out our inner child by trying to be perfect, because we think our bosses are our parents. We think our friends are our parents. We think our partners are our parents. And so we're trying to figure out, how can I get your attention? The thing that I lacked my whole life, how can I get it from you? Maybe I can get it through getting a bunch of promotions. Maybe I can get it from getting all the awards and the accolades. Maybe I can get it by having a long-term successful relationship, because I couldn't get it as a child. And so I think it's really important to figure out ways that you might need to nurture your inner child, because what you're doing is in many ways regressing, and you're going back to childhood like tactics to gain something. And so that's another thing I really think people can pay attention to. And then the other side to it in regards to work anxiety, just figure out what that is. Figuring out, because I think we create this idea around balance that we are supposed to give equal parts of ourselves to all these different things that we have to do, and normalize that that's not possible. I think we just really need to normalize that balance isn't real. You can't give 50% to your personal life and 50% to your job.
Right.
You can't do that. It's in many ways you probably can't, and that's okay. You have to figure out how you can learn to be interconnected with the things that you have to give yourself to. It's all a cycle. And so I think we just have to recognize that there are going to be parts of us that show up in different ways. And that's okay. It's not possible to give your all to everything that is in need of your attention. And we also have to think about the different intersections that we have around our identity. So we want to give all to our jobs, but at the same time, not only do we have a personal life that we have to give a portion of that back to ourselves, we are in relationships, so we have to give to our partners. We're in friendships, we have to give to our friends. Then you add on the layers of, are you a parent? You have to give to your child. It's no possible way. Think about, especially as a parent, think about having multiple children. You probably are not always giving all of your children the same exact amount of attention. So it's the same thing with just dealing with the different intricacies of life, that everything cannot get all of us. And that is actually okay. It does not mean you're giving the bare minimum. I'm giving to this what I can. My cup is going to be filled at different levels for each part of the things that I have to engage with in life. And I think when we normalize that, it takes away the guilt for feeling like we have to learn how to show up for everything.
So good. I do agree that like this idea of perfectionism is definitely glamorized and glorified, that it's like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. And I definitely I feel like majority of my life I identified as that. And as I'm getting older, like everything you said is so resonating with me, because you're really just doing yourself a disservice if you try to be a perfectionist in every aspect of your life. Like that shouldn't be the goal. The goal should just to be fulfilled, healthy, balanced, feeling safe, and not trying to stress yourself out to be this idea of perfect. Like that doesn't exist. And also I love what you said about you can't be 50% in work and 50% in your personal life. So like when we talk about balance, for us that looks like a pie chart. So it's like we know we're giving 50% to all of our work endeavors, and we're giving 20% to our social life or whatever it is. And then we're giving, 20% to our self-care or whatever that looks like. So I even think that might be helpful for people to try to think about, like, what does your pie chart look like? Like what percentage of your time, energy, effort, and bandwidth is going towards different pillars of your life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would add to really start to define what your values are.
Yeah.
Define values in regards to interpersonal relationships, define your values regarding work. Also define your values for yourself, because I think a lot of the time our unhappiness comes from us not living in alignment with the things we say we value,
Mm.
because we're saying yes to things that we really want to say no to. And so it's really important to do an assessment of your values and see where your values lie within these different departments. And you might find you have more values pertaining to your work, and so therefore you give more to that, versus you might find you have more values for your family or for your friends and less regarding work, and therefore you pour more into the things that you value. And again, because you're valuing all of it, it's not saying you don't value work. It's just that there are other things happening in your life that are more meaningful to you. Therefore you want to give more of yourself to that, while also giving a portion of yourself to work.
So good. That. Yeah. And I also love what you said about like saying no. We definitely preach about that a lot. Is like it's okay to say no. There's power in saying no. You should probably start saying no more often. And I also, a note that we wrote down that we would like to talk about is like people pleasing. And I think that goes hand in hand with that, especially being an employee or being an entrepreneur or
definitely
being a business owner, having
well.
clients that you want to just make happy and you're willing to do whatever it costs, you know, to make your client happy or your boss happy and impress them. Just if you have any insight on people who are people pleasers. I mean, I think a lot of it also goes back to what you mentioned earlier about the childhood, you know, relationships and how a lot of our relationships form from that type of space. But yeah, I think it definitely like the power of saying no and needing that power is definitely goes hand in hand with trying to be a people pleaser.
I mean, absolutely. I think we people please in different aspects of our lives. And so I think when it comes to our interpersonal relationships with other people, I find that the people pleasing often comes from a fear of conflict. If I say no, how is it going to make them feel?
Right.
And I think a lot of us really just need to learn how to develop emotional awareness as well as maturity because we live in a society that labels feelings as good, bad, right, wrong. When people experience certain emotions, we assume we're responsible for fixing those emotions. And that is a lot to carry, you know? And so I think the first thing that we have to do is learn to recognize that if someone is upset with my no, that's actually okay. It's okay for people to be upset, right? Anger is not a bad emotion. We've created this belief though that it is, and that belief comes from what people do with their emotions. So there are people who know how to process their anger in a healthy way, and there are people who process their anger in a destructive way. However, that's for them to learn to sit with. I am not responsible for how people feel and how they tend to their feelings. They are. So I think the first thing is us just really learning to get comfortable with letting people be disappointed, letting people feel sad that I can't make it to your wedding or I can't make it to your event because I still feel uncomfortable related to COVID, right? I feel bad that I can't take on an additional project, and I see it gets you a little flustered and annoyed, but that's okay for you to be annoyed. I've even, and I remind people to think of times when you felt annoyed, when you felt flustered. You got over it, right? You processed it. You dealt with it. It did not, emotions don't kill us. However, what we do with them can, they can definitely harm. We can engage in self-sabotaging in many different ways. However, we just have to really get comfortable with people feeling what they feel in response to our boundaries. Instead of trying to control how people respond to them, we need to just let them feel it and give them the space to do so. I also think people pleasing, as you mentioned earlier too, like I touched upon, is it can really bring us back to childhood. In many ways, we want to please our parents, and it's because we're looking for something from them. And so we assume that if I engage in these people pleasing tendencies, maybe my partner will love me more, maybe my friends will hang out with me more, maybe my boss will give me more projects, maybe I will get the raise, maybe I'll gain from this.
Right.
And I think a lot of us are really just struggling with these feelings that are really much tied to our childhoods around being okay with what we have and assuming that we have to do more. And I think we really just have to learn to tap into our self-worth and recognize that we are enough as we are, and learn to question your relationships where if I don't people please and this can cause a disruption, is this actually a healthy relationship for me to be a part of?
Right.
Where I'm not allowed to say no. Where if I do say no, every single time I do it, the person throws a temper tantrum. They start to guilt trip me. They start to demonize me in some sort of way. And they are trying to now make me feel bad instead of tending to their emotions. Maybe I really need to go deeper and ask myself, is this a healthy dynamic for me to continue to participate in if I don't have a voice in this relationship or this friendship? And I also think that all of those things still apply to work as well, because I think what people forget is at work we're dealing with people. We're using these terms, brands, corporations, I get it, but who's running them? people. And people have their own distorted thinking. People have their own personal issues. So I think we also just have to humanize other people and recognize that, yes, this person has a title, they're my boss, but before their title, they're a person. Right. And so am I people pleasing because I am afraid of the boss, or am I people pleasing because I'm afraid of the person? Right. And in what ways can I humanize the person for me to realize I can say no to them despite them being my boss, despite it being my colleague, despite it being someone I have to probably see all the time? It's okay because they're a person too. So I think we just have to do that as well, because I think sometimes we get very, very stuck on titles, and we assume we put people on pedestals because of their title.
Yeah.
I can't talk to you a certain way. I can't set a boundary with you because you have this label. And a lot of that, again, goes back to nurturing our inner child, because when we're born into this world, we're born into a world where there are structures already developed, and you have the parent-child dynamic. So the first person that you have to interact with that has this particular title is your parent. And you go about the world assuming that everyone is your parent in some sort of way, or they're going to act like your parent. And a lot of this is subconscious. They're my boss. I can't say no to my boss. Well, I couldn't say no to my parents. Right. And so everyone is on this pedestal above me. And what we really need to do is take these people off these pedestals and see them as humans, and recognize, actually, I can tell you no. I can set this boundary. I can disappoint you. Right. I maybe have felt like I couldn't disappoint my parents, but you're my boss. You're not my parent. I can disappoint you. And so there's this level of agency where we can learn to tap into our power and start to push back against this full sense of helplessness that we have, that we assume that we are powerless people. We're not. We do have power and we have choice, but we need to learn how to exercise our choices.
So,
sheesh.
Yeah. Wow. I
Incredible.
mean, so freaking good. And even like what you just said, it just occurred to me, you're right. We do associate these titles with these people, and it's like
Sometimes they don't mean shit.
And yeah, but like for our whole lives, we see CEO and we're like, this person is a god, and it's like, wait, no, you know what I mean? Like it's a subconscious thing, but like when people do have a title,
it's associated with power.
We think of them as more or better, but it's so true. At the end of the day, everyone is just a person and a human.
That guy pisses and shits the same way I do.
We're all dying on the deathbed and care about the same. Well, not right now, hopefully, but like at the end of the day, when people are on their deathbed, we all care and value the same things. And I've said that before, but just the way you like articulated that was so good. Like, your boss is a person, your manager is a person, your CEO is a person.
Mm-hmm. I actually did have a quick question, because you mentioned a few times nurturing your inner child. And I know, for one, myself, and I'm sure a lot of our audience don't even really know where to start with that. And it's like, what is that? And I'm speaking for myself.
That's a whole conversation.
Well, just like what would your, first tips be for, nurturing your inner child? Like, is that like a little, are there little steps that we can take throughout the day? Or is it like, I need to go do mushrooms with my shaman and figure that out?
Whatever works for you. So it's definitely not, and I do think in many ways it seems like a new concept.
Definitely.
The idea of nurturing your inner child. It's definitely nothing huge at all. It's really just finding ways to tap into your childhood self and give it the love, affection, and nurturing care that your younger self may have needed. And the reason why we talk about this is because a lot of folks believe that we're adults now. But we have to remember that we're adults because we experienced childhood and now we've grown into adults. But that does not erase our history, right? And so in many ways, as adults, we can experience something called regression, where we start to go backwards with our development and engage in very childlike ways. And this can look like throwing a temper tantrum as an adult, right? When we don't get the things that we want, we become angry, we curse people out. When we're hurt, we don't know how to regulate. And so we're treating people in many different ways. We're hitting, we're throwing things, we're doing all these things that we may have done as a kid. Another thing is not knowing how to regulate when we feel just emotionally dysregulated, and it can look on the higher end of the spectrum, like what I just mentioned with the tantruming and throwing things, but then it could also look like maybe retreating, going into silence, going into people pleasing. Every child has a specific way of figuring out how to navigate the world when they either feel unsafe, when they feel hurt. And what we do as adults is, like I said, we're just continuing to grow. So if as children we did not get the tools to heal those things, as adults we're still going to just act like our 5-year-old selves, right? A lot of the times we revert back to the time when trauma happened for us as a kid. And especially if we grew up dealing with childhood trauma. And even if you didn't grow up dealing with childhood trauma, children are always finding ways they're gaining their autonomy, right? And so they're trying to figure out ways to integrate with the world, to develop their own sense of agency. And like I said, they have people around them who have the power dynamic to say what you can or cannot do. So nurturing our inner child is one, recognizing maybe this is me acting like I'm 10 again. When I was 10, I used to do this. When I was 15, I used to do this. And so the first thing you might want to do is gain that sense of self-awareness by recognizing, why am I responding this way? How has this person triggered me? I feel really flustered. I feel dysregulated. Why is this happening? And maybe it's reminding you of a childhood experience. And in that moment, you just want to find ways to nurture yourself. And so that could look like positive self-talk. It could look like engaging in play. I think for many adults, we forget how to play because life becomes so serious. We have all of these responsibilities that we don't remember that play is so important for our social development, right? And so adult play can look like going on a vacation. It could look like going to a what is those rooms where like they lock the door? Escape rooms, right? Engaging in different activities that bring out the fun in you.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it could look like journaling, writing things down, writing things to your childhood self. So you really just want to find things that are self-soothing for you in the moment. But the reason why we're calling it nurturing your inner child is because that self-soothing is also connected to a younger part of you that is starting to manifest through your adult self.
So good. So good. Are there any other questions you have for her? I feel like we just got her for like the best free therapy session ever.
So powerful.
Yeah. I mean, wow.
I mean, I could definitely keep you here like literally forever. So.
Yeah, no, you are really amazing and just so articulate and smart and beautiful, and wow, can't say enough good things.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us and providing us with so much value and just heartfelt, value. Where can people find you and follow you if they want to learn more about you and just follow your journey?
Yeah, of course. So if they want to learn more about me, they can visit www.minab.com, and Mina is spelled MINAAB.com. And then you can also follow me on Instagram at MINAA_B.
Okay, awesome. Do we want to ask our two fire round questions quickly?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, so we ask these two questions to every guest. It could be long, it could be short, whatever you want. The first question being, what is your best, we call it a biz pro tip, and I'm sure you could make that apply for business, but it could be like a mindset tip or an app that you really like using or a journal prompt that you like using. Like literally it could be anything.
Okay, what is my best business tip? That's a really good question. I think right now what's coming to the top of my mind is learning when to say no.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I think especially as an entrepreneur, I think that fits highly into entrepreneurship, where sometimes we feel like we have to take everything in. And that's for an abundance of reasons, especially around a scarcity mindset. If I say no, more might not come my way. But the more you say yes to things, the more you're depleting yourself and taking away from your value, time, and energy that could be used to go toward the things that actually are in alignment with your business and can help you grow. So I think in a business mindset, learning to say no has become very important.
Love it. Love it.
And our next question is, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Oh, that's a good one. I feel like,
She's like saying no.
She's like, everything I just told you guys.
I think the best piece of advice is really, I can't control how people will choose to perceive me. It's actually not my business to know.
Wow. Powerful.
And so give people permission to do as they please, and I have permission to do as I please. And I just can't control how people perceive me, but from when I find out how they do perceive me, I get to control how I want to interact with them.
Love that. Thank you so much. This has been so amazing. And we just feel like it's an honor that we get to sit down with amazing guests every week like yourself and just be blessed, honestly.
Truly. Thank you so much,
guys.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah. If you guys love this episode, which I know you guys do and will, make sure you send it to a friend who you also think would love it. Take a screenshot. Let us know you're listening. And that wraps it up for this week. We'll see you next week on another episode. Bye, guys.